Jim, what's going on, man?
Oh, not a lot. How about you?
Just another day in the life of media and football and fishing and hunting. That's why we're here today.
Well, I'm just glad to sit with a celebrity and talk.
Well, I'm trying. Is there somebody behind me? Well, Jim, you and I go way back, so today's pretty special for me. We do these podcasts, and we talk to a lot of people about a lot of different things. And today, I get to just chat with you about things that we've done growing up, some passions of both of ours. As far as hunting and fishing and the outdoors, and I want to talk to you about your story and kind of how you got to where you are today. And I know there's a lot of people out there that you've had an impact on over the last 20 years. So we'll just kind of start with our love of hunting and fishing. There's a pretty big fishing tournament going on out on Lake Martin today, by the way. It's
yeah, I heard there's a championship trail going on there.
Yeah, Alabama Bass Trail. Wish me and you were out there fishing it instead of right here. But $50,000 on the line today. But I'll start here. You and I both grew up in this area. Lake Martin is a jewel. It is a blessing to have a body of water like Lake Martin here in our home area. And it serves multiple purposes, but it kind of gets talked about as a recreational lake, from water sports and a lot of residential, high residential area, but the fishing's really good on this lake.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, as far as you want to go catch numbers, you can catch them. If you want to go catch good fish, you can catch those. If you like fishing dirty water, you can fish one end of the lake. You like clear water, you can fish the other end of the lake. I mean, it's good in the winter, the summer. You can do what you want to do.
That's what makes it fun. What got you into fish? You and I have a common bond with a really good friend of both of ours. Greg Vinson fishes on the pro circuit. He's been doing that for a long time. We both kind of knew he was going to pursue that, and he's done well with that. And we all kind of grew up, I guess, kind of fishing together and learning together, and that's kind of what made it fun.
It is. It's definitely fun when you get a group of friends together and make memories, but then as those memories expand, just like Greg, is that love has just went to a whole different degree and, gets to do it for a living.
He does get to do it for a living, and it's not easy. Like, I know a lot of people have come up to me and go, man, I'd love to do what Greg does. I mean, he's living the life, and he is. But if you talk to him and you've seen him do shows with both of us before, it's a grind, man. It's an awesome opportunity to live that dream out, but man, it's grueling, man. You're on the road all the time. You're away from your family. You're grinding long days out. When I talk long days, we talk about the normal work day. It's an 8 to 5 work day. I mean,
right.
You're talking in fishing. You're getting up at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're not coming in off the water till 6 or 7 at night, and then you're turning around and you're doing it all over again.
Yeah,
multiple days in a row.
Yeah, I've been there and seen that, done some of it myself, and he's one of, and I'm sure the rest of the guys he fishes against may have the same mentality, but he's one of those guys that could do it all day and then wake up the next morning ready to do it again the next day. Like, he doesn't have an off button. He could fish every day and love every minute of it.
Yeah, it takes somebody special to be able to do that because it can wear you down. So growing up fishing and hunting, we've all done it. We both kind of have a unique story to tell in that area. I'll go first. We've been hunting for a long time, and in high school, the first. We want to talk about safety here today.
Yes,
we want to talk about how important it is. It's not just jump in the truck with your buddies and we're gonna go hunt and have a good time, and things can happen to you when you least expect it. And
Correct.
I think that's something that people need to understand, whether you're on the water fishing, whether you're in the woods hunting, and it may not necessarily be you. It may be somebody else that has an impact on you. But I remember we were on your land, back in high school, and it was the week of Thanksgiving, so we were out of school, and me, you, and Greg were hunting, and we were hunting in different areas and different spots, and we kind of gotten right at dusky dark, I'd say, and we had kind of made a decision where we'd all meet in this field coming out of our different areas. Well, you were coming from a direction, and Greg's coming from another direction, and I was coming basically from an adjacent direction from you guys. And I had a gun, and here's the thing about making sure you know what you're doing and your firearms and being familiar with them is that in testing those out. And again, you got to remember now, we were in high school, so this is how you wonder why you stress importance of safety and all that, because kids make bad decisions sometimes, and maybe they didn't intentionally do it, but it just happens. Well, I had a gun I wasn't accustomed to using, and it turns out that the safety on the gun had malfunctioned, and so that happens. And so the safety was on, and you thought it was on. Well, I'm coming over a little barbed wire fence, and you're holding the gun down beside you like you're supposed to do, and I crossed the fence, and the gun kind of got hung in some of that, I guess, whatever it is that grows up around, little sagebrush or whatever, and I went and I pulled the gun, and when I pulled the gun went off.
Right.
And so the gun fired, and the safety was on. So, but you were coming, and you were in sight, and Greg was in sight, and we all just kind of froze, and we kind of asked each other if everybody was all right, and we were like, yeah, we're all good. And what happened? And I was like, well, I was crossing the fence, and this gun went off, and so we walk a good ways, and I my foot was kind of hurting a little bit, and I was like, man, something just don't feel right. And it was cold. It was Thanksgiving, and I looked down, and this is how dark it was. I'm like, man, something doesn't feel right. Well, I think Greg got down on the ground and looked, and he's like, man, you got like a little BB hole size in the top of your boot. And I'm like, really? So I kind of sit down, take the boot off, and find out that one of the shot from the shotgun shell had gone in through my boot and basically severed my first toe. Yes. And no bleeding, because it kind of cauterized the wound. If the shell actually, it's just kind of weird thing, had a crack in the casing, and one stray shot went to the left because the most of the blast went to the right. And so really it was just kind of weird all the way around. Anyway, we go to the hospital, and I have to get a pin put in my toe and get it sewn back up. It really couldn't have asked for a better situation with all of that, because somebody could have gotten killed. Somebody, could have blown my foot off. The gun could have been pointed at one of y'all and blown your leg off. It could have been a nightmare situation. It
Correct.
Actually pretty much came out about as good as you could come out. It really taught me a lot of how fast things can happen, and how you think you're prepared for things, and you never know when something's going to be thrown at you, especially when you're dealing with guns, or you're dealing with boats on the water, or motors and things like that. So that was my introduction to, hey man, you can't be too precautious,
right,
when you're going out and doing things like this. And fortunate the good Lord saw fit that I make it out of that and I move on, and then I'm here to be able to share that with people and say, look, we did the right things, and still something bad happened. But it could have been worse if we hadn't been practicing safety things. And so that's kind of my story on that. And I want to go over to you, because when we were in college, you had something happen to you. It's kind of led you to where you are today, and it's been very inspirational for a lot of people. And you've handled this so well. And I know you and I have talked about it several times before, but I just kind of tell your story of kind of where you are and why you're here in the situation you're in.
Yeah, mine's very similar, and just thinking you're doing the right things, and you make one small mistake, and life can change for you. I was at Auburn University, had one class left to graduate from the university, was very excited about all that, and then I decided, hey, I'm going to go back to my home here in Alexander City and hunt. Well, I decided to climb up in a tree stand and go hunting. When I climbed up there, just like everybody else, I wore a safety belt all the way up the tree, got up there and got set down, and I decided, well, okay, just like everybody else does, maybe these wires are not just right or just whatever. So once I get up there, I'm like, well, hey, I'm not going to put the safety belt on because it's, caught up in the wires of the tree. So I sat there thinking, okay, everything's cool. I hunted for like 2.5 hours, got ready to come down, and in my brain, that small thing of hooking that safety belt back up, I never hooked it back up. And when I got ready to come down, the actual bar that goes around the tree let go from the tree completely. So what I ended up doing was riding that piece in a 2-piece tree stand, riding that top piece of that tree stand down 22 feet backwards and landed on that metal on my back. But it's that simple mistake of safety belt hooked up, maybe I'm still hanging in that tree.
Just that's how fast it can happen.
Sure.
So talk about that day, Jim, and going back, I remember for myself, sitting in that field was kind of surreal for me, even though
sure.
I knew my life wasn't in jeopardy.
Right.
We kind of figured out that really, you're not losing any blood, nothing's bad. We just need to go to the hospital and get it tended to.
Right.
You were by yourself.
No, there was somebody hunting.
Okay.
Not in the tree with me, but there was somebody that came with me.
So there was somebody there. All right.
Yes.
But just tell everybody about, you're sitting there and what's going through your mind?
Well, just like anything, you have all these feelings like you running through your head of like, okay, what's wrong? What do I feel? Well, in me, it was a lot of adrenaline, like I guess, testosterone or something flowing to where I felt like I'm looking up and I see half my tree stand up there, but I'm laying on the ground and I go, okay, something's not right, but I'll just get up and go on. Well, then when I put my hands on the ground to get up, I couldn't get up. And that was the difference when I kind of set in for me was like, okay, something's not cool here. Then the next thing I know, my friend that was hunting down in the woods, we were supposed to meet at a certain time. So according to what he was able to figure out when I fell, we were within 15, 20 minutes of me falling is when he, came up there to check on me. Well,
and by the way, this is before cell phones.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
We had cell phones, but they were bag phones in a car.
Yes.
There was no, unless you had a Zach Morris Saved by the Bell, big, huge
Yes.
phone, and you're not carrying that out in the woods. We didn't have an opportunity, if something like that happens, to text, say, hey, man, I've had a fall.
Yeah, he honestly had to, he came and figured out what was going on. He had to walk across the street from where we were. It was probably a mile walk to a pastor's house across the street, and the pastor had to call the hospital, the ambulance and all that to come be able to get me.
Do you still think about that day?
No, I don't. I guess maybe I did when it first happened, but I don't anymore.
So you moved on from that. So you understand, so you get taken to the hospital, and then what was your reaction, Jim, when you found out that this was a little bit more serious than you may have thought at the beginning?
Well, I can tell you one funny story in between that and figuring out how serious it was. I go to Russell Hospital. They're in there cutting off, which, by the way, most of the people that go out there and hunt love spending money on camouflage and boots and calls and all this crap. Well, I had just bought all this brand new camouflage and a brand new pair of these Rocky boots. Well, I'm looking down at my feet as these people are yelling, we need to do this, do that, and I'm watching them cut my brand new camouflage off, and that pissed me off. I was like, whoa. And then
do you realize how much money I just spent on?
Yeah,
I'm in college.
I'm laying there with my back broke, but I'm worried about my camo being cut off. So they load me up into this ambulance. We drive all the way to UAB, and the last thing, and I get to tell this story all the time when I go do my testimonies at church, is I guess because it happened so quickly, they must have had to call a doctor in or something, but I see this guy out of the corner of my eye over there undoing like his clothes and getting scrubs and all this thing on, and I remember seeing this guy wearing this Alabama tie. And the last thing that went through my head before surgery, I said, ain't no damn Alabama fan about to kill me. They ain't have it. So
like, can you find somebody else that can come in here and help me,
please send me somebody.
Exactly.
But yes, for me, that's kind of those moments, and that surreal moment to me is kind of probably came, I wouldn't say when I was in the emergency room or in the ICU, because I stayed 60 days in there, or it was like 30-something days in actual ICU and then 60-something days total in the hospital. It probably came somewhere down to the middle of that hospital stay was when you start having to go through the physical therapy where they're telling you to move this or move that and it's not moving, and you're like, okay, something ain't right here. And then I got to meet the surgeon actually did the surgery, and you talk to him and he starts describing, hey, this is what happened to you, and this is how it happened, and this is what I had to go fix, and I'm just going to tell you that whatever you got, you might as well just be happy with what you got, because that's how it's going to be. And I was kind of like, well, that's a harsh way of, getting good news there.
Yeah, and, and again, I guess you're in that moment, and you're thinking, I mean, I want to go back for a second. You played football in high school. You were a manager at Auburn. I was a student assistant at Auburn. At the same time with the football team, you've always been an active guy. I played, slow pitch softball on travel teams, and, hunted and fished and moved around, and, we all have. We're like fish out of water, no pun intended. So did you think at that point in time, okay, my life has changed and the way I'm going to be able to do? Again, it could be. At what point in time did you process? Yes, this has happened to me. My life changed, but I'm thankful that it could have been that it's not worse.
I can't honestly sit here and say that I processed it in that way.
Yeah.
I processed it in the fact of, this is what you got. Pick your, tighten your bootstraps up and move on.
And that, to me, is the biggest part of this story for me, is how, I think it's anybody with any situation in life and how you approach it.
Right.
What do you do with what you got?
Right.
And what do you make out of it? And it's all about attitude. I'll share a story about my mother. She battled breast cancer and she beat it.
Right.
And I'm sure she had her days where, she was to the side and, she had her moments in the room by herself, but you never would have known that she was battling any type of cancer.
Right.
And it was her attitude and it was her determination that she's going to beat this, and this was not going to define her, and this was not her time. She was going to do, she had a lot more life to live, and she did. And I know that attitude has a lot to do with it. And I've watched you, Jim, because I've seen and I've heard people go, man, I don't know how he does what he does. I just, if I had that taken away from me, I just ball up into a shell. And you've been totally opposite of that. If anything, you've been more of a go-getter now after that. And that's hard to do because we were pretty much going and getting as much as you could get back in the day. And but you turned this thing into something that's not even about you. You turned this into something for other kids, and you use your position now to say, look, you're only as handicapped as you decide you want to be in a situation.
Right.
And I use that term because, a lot of times your mind's a very powerful thing, and it can tell you what you think you can do and what you think you can't do. And you've chosen the other way, man. You've chosen to say, look, okay, this is the cards I've been dealt now in life. I'm not going to let it slow me down, and you haven't.
Right. No, and I would agree. That's probably the biggest thing is an attitude. That's what, through my fishing, through my football coaching that I've done, it's really what I try to. Not necessarily, I preach it a lot, but I also try to show it a lot. Is if you've got an opportunity to set your attitude every day, you can wake up mad, pissed off, whatever you want at the world, but that doesn't change anything.
It doesn't change anything. Somebody the other day said something about worrying about a situation you can't control does not fix or change anything. No. So why waste that time? And it's hard to kind of process sometimes, but going back to you as, a person that decided to go into an organization or start an organization for kids with disabilities.
Correct.
And say, look, just because you're disabled doesn't mean you can't enjoy the outdoors.
Right. Doesn't
mean you can't strive to be successful in whatever it is in life you want to do. What made you decide to start Outdoor Friends Forever?
Well, it's probably a combination of a couple things, but right here in the Lake Martin area, we're very blessed to have Camp Haska down on Lake Martin, Jackson's Gap area, which most people watch is probably familiar with them. One of the greatest organizations there ever was. I mean, those guys go above and beyond trying to help kids, reach their goals and be things that they want to be.
That's right.
Well, for me, I actually worked there a summer before I got hurt. The entire summer I spent taking care of their wildlife program. I took kids fishing. I took them down there and let them in a little petting zoo. We also learned how to take care of kids with special needs and give them baths and talk to them and be friends with them and watch them from day one when they get there to day 5 when they leave, just squalling because they got to go home and they don't get to do this anymore. They want to stay at camp all the time. Well, for me, having been on both sides of the injury, being worked with kids before I was injured and after, the love and the passion for me was Outdoor Friends Forever was the hunting and the fishing that we talked about. And they do a little bit of fishing at Aska, but they don't do any of the hunting and a lot of the outdoor activities I like to do. So I really branched off into trying to do that, and just from there, having a ton of friends that enjoy what I do have just got right in there with it. And this is not a thing, yes, my name was on it to start with, but this is not a thing that Jim does by itself. I mean, we have so many volunteers, so many people that are willing to come take the kids hunting, take them fishing, like Greg you've talked about. I couldn't talk about how many times he's came and sat in the stand with somebody, or came and fished with somebody, or sold his jerseys for donations for the kids.
You know, you're right. I mean, the people that stepped up and have helped and been a part and, you know, want to contribute, is that what's been so rewarding for you? I mean, I know the kids have been rewarding, obviously, and seeing their face when they kill a deer for the first time, or they catch their first fish on their own, and you say, look, I told you could do it.
Right.
I know that's rewarding, but what about the support and the people that bought in and said, man, I'm on board, and this is pretty special?
You want to see the real rewarding thing, and it's hard for me to put it into words, but it's honestly the reaction between, say, if you come and volunteer with our kids and you get to hunt and spend time with that kid, the real rewarding thing for me is to see those two people become friends that never had anything common before in their life. They just met a kid. Well, matter of fact, I had a close friend of mine call this morning that is right now in the process this morning of building 2 green fields and 2 shooting houses to put kids in, for the simple fact that he did this program with us last year, fell in love with one of the kids. They talk all the time now on social media. They're like created a bond and that's what our saying is we pair people with special needs with people with special talents, and they form a bond that lasts together in the outdoors.
And that's y'all's statement.
Yes.
That's your mission
And
statement.
it's absolutely amazing to watch a guy that has never been around a special person before, never had any of those kind of things. Those two all of a sudden make buddies, and then now this dude's wanting to take his whole land and tear it apart and make it into something for kids.
Kids can have an impact on adults. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And you just had your first child, and
yes.
it changes your life.
Oh, sure.
And, you know, when we're growing up and you want all the accolades and you want to try to achieve as much as you possibly can, you know, but when you have a child, it's special to watch them achieve those things. You know, like my daughter and my son, both, you know, Braden has grown to love fishing as much as me and you love it.
Right.
And he's gotten pretty good at it and fishes on the high school team. And now I get way more. He goes offshore fishing with me now in Venice. He goes at least once a year, him and his buddies. And I get way more enjoyment out of watching him catch fish, him kill a deer. Same for my daughter. Way more enjoyment than anything I ever did, and anything that I ever caught or anything that I ever shot. It's amazing what it does to you and how it changes you, and how much you just want to give. Once you ever do that,
right? I
think that you just don't care if you ever get anything else. As long as you have the ability to give to other people,
yes.
Whoever it is, man, there's just a special feeling about that.
Oh, it's amazing. We started a program last year within the off program called the Dream Hunt, where we're taking one kid a year anywhere they want to go in the country to hunt.
Wow.
And I've been blessed enough over the years to go to Ohio's and Texas and Florida's and Illinois and kill a bunch of deer. Well, we started this program. A little girl got to pick anywhere she wanted to go last year. She had been to our program so many times and seen all my deer on the wall from Texas. That's where she wanted to go. Well, we took her to Texas for 4 days. She shot this big, nice deer. And that moment set in for me there, being there with her and watching it, just what you just said. I've killed a bunch of deer in Texas and some of the prettiest deer that anybody's ever seen. But for her to kill her deer was just, it took the place of all my Texas.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, it just like, yeah, I've been there, done that, but seeing the joy of her being able to do that, it's really priceless, to be honest with you. And so with that being said, Outdoor Friends Forever has been rolling along for a while now.
Yes.
And it has impacted a lot of kids and a lot of people, not just the kids, but the people that help and assist and all that kind of stuff. You know, what have you seen, Jim, during that time outside of the reward of the kids that just has really thrown you back? Because I know that doing this, you went into it with a purpose to give kids, but what is there something that just kind of took you back and said, man, this is just awesome?
Well, honestly, there's so many of those things. I mean, we've been going 11 years now. One of the most...
I knew it was a decade. I knew it had been at least
a while.
10 years.
Yeah, so. It's been a while. Probably one of the most that sticks out in my mind was coming back from one of our hunts, watching a kid. We always try to get the kids and their families together after they've killed their deer and take pictures and all this thing. Well, I'm looking around for the guy that went and hunted with this one particular kid, and I couldn't find him. Well, he was over in his truck, just sitting on his truck, and I was like, I wonder what the heck he's doing over here. So I go over there to see him. He's squalling his eyes out. And I was like, what are you squalling your eyes out? He's like, man, I'm having trouble with my finances, and I'm having trouble with this in my life. And he said, that little girl over there she can't even move a finger, and here I am worried about all these other things. He's like, dude, I ain't got nothing to worry about.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because there's times in all of our lives you rock along and life just happens.
Yep.
And you think, man, how bad, could this day get any worse? Well, the answer is yeah.
Yes.
We found out this year, 2020, don't say it can't get any worse, because I think that's been a statement that everybody's kind of put in the closet a little bit, because 2020 has been one for the record books. But on a serious note, we as humans, we all get there.
Right.
And we all go to a dark place sometimes and go, man, I tried everything. I can't pull myself out of this, whether it be money, whether it be your marriage, whether it be, your job, whatever life throws at you. And then you come across a situation where you get humbled.
Yes.
It's the only other way I can put it is you get humbled and you go, man, this stuff that I'm making a big deal about just really ain't a big deal. It just isn't. And understanding that life throws you curveballs, and it's how you deal with it. And probably, I don't know who that guy is, probably changed his life.
No, there's no question. He's one of those people now that comes every year. He's one of those people that took his land and started making shooting houses and green fields. And it was also one of those people that we talk about, that things in life like myself and yourself and your mom's self, that thing, it wasn't an injury for him that changed his life. It was looking at somebody else in a lesser situation in his mind that he said, I thought it could be worse, and I got it great.
That's right. Yeah. And I think that's okay, and sometimes to be, I guess, have a gut check, for lack of better terms, and say, look, good Lord's blessed me with talents. I need to use them instead of sitting over here feeling pity on myself because maybe something isn't quite going my way, and doing some things that way. So we want kids to be involved. Disabled kids, the organization that you have has been tremendous. But kids in the sports, period, and one of the reasons we're here today is to talk about how much we love to hunt and fish. And it's a growing sport. Both of them are growing. Yes. Fishing tremendously growing with high school, college, and then it's leading. You go to these lakes now, and even during the week, the boat ramps are packed. That wasn't the case when you and I were growing up, Jim. Right. We didn't have high school teams or college teams to fish for. We could have only dreamed of being on a college fishing team or a high school fishing team, and but it's great. I have coached Central Alabama Community College's fishing team for 6 years. My son's now on Benjamin Russell's team, but I've watched this sport explode, and I've seen the passion and how good these kids are, man. The Alabama Bass Trail, they've had their youngest team ever to win a tournament. I think they won 2 on the South Division this year, a 20-year-old and 18-year-old brothers fishing together. Mm-hmm. So these kids are learning at such a younger age, but man, the equipment and the stuff they have at their fingertips.
Absolutely.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
It is. Absolutely.
We didn't have $80,000 bass boats.
Well, and it's what I told you before when we were talking about Greg. I've been blessed enough to be able to do some of these professional tournaments myself in the opens and things like that. Most people don't know, but I'm the first and only disabled angler to ever cast a professional check. And the equipment that I got to use, having to crawl to the front of the boat and crawl to the back of the boat, that stuff, that didn't happen but, probably 6-8 years ago that I cashed that check. But the equipment's light years ahead of even when I was crawling up there fishing.
It is amazing. And so, and that's another story. You did fish professionally, and you kind of lived that dream out a little bit, and had an opportunity to not just do it, but do it well and be successful at it. And so, let's talk about some of these lakes around here, and what a great fishery Central Alabama is. Obviously Lake Martin here, but the Coosa River chain with Jordan Mitchell, Lay, Logan Martin, Neely Henry,
Weiss.
You got Eufaula over there to our east, Gunnersville to our north, maybe one of the best fishing lakes in the entire country. Pickwick, Wilson, Wheeler,
Yep.
smallmouth. I've been up there, man. You catch your first smallmouth, it's amazing. But right here in Central Alabama, some of the best fisheries in the world. You got Lake Jordan, who that lake produced some of the biggest spots you'll ever want to catch. Lay Lake's had more Bassmaster Classics on it than I think any other body of water in the history. Lake Martin has evolved into a multiple species lake. I mean, people come from all over to fish for stripers, but the largemouth and the spotted bass fishing is great. You go to Eufaula, which Tom Mann kind of made famous, and just catch one big largemouth after another over there certain times of year. It can be really good. Man, we're just blessed, aren't we, to have these type bodies of water right here. People have to travel hours in other parts of the country to be able to even get to a body of water like we have.
Well, I mean, for Jordan, I can speak for experience. I lived on that place 14 years. And it is, you don't get any finer of spotted bass fishing in the country. You do not. I've had literally fish come up and eat top water, and I didn't land them because when I get them back, the treble hook is straightened out. And
mean fish.
Most
man.
people
mean
know who
fish.
Kevin Van Dam is. I sat in a seminar one time with him, listening at him explain about smallmouth fishing and topwater fishing and all this. And somebody asked him the question while he was there, what was the meanest fish that he had ever hooked a hold of? And he said a Coosa River spotted bass. He said because if they got any meaner, they would knock people off sea-doos. That's his own word.
That's the Tiger Woods of bass fishing.
That's correct.
Kevin Van Dam. So, let's talk about a little bit, the style of fishing and getting kids involved. There may be a parent out there going, hey man, my son or my daughter, they've been asking me to go fishing. I'm just not into it. What's your advice on that when they're asking to go fish? I mean, you don't have to be a professional angler. You don't have to have a 21-foot bass boat with a 250 horsepower motor on it with $15,000 worth of electronics. You can go out and have a good time fishing without all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, with the OFF program, we work a lot with our game wardens and our state officials. There are tons of public state lakes out there. I mean, like one I used to visit when I was at Auburn, Lee County Lake.
Yep.
You can go out there and pay $5 fishing that thing all you want. They don't charge you for a thing. You can take the fish with you. As long as they fit within their size limits, you can take all your fish home with you. One of the great hidden things, if they'll still let you do it, and there's a lot of places that do, is golf courses. Nobody ever talks about that. I used to go to Robert Trent Goins Golf Trail, and I used to go to the Pines Golf Trail.
Some of the biggest bass in the state are in these golf course lakes.
And most of them never seen lures. I mean, you throw a lure in there and they go slap crazy. Yeah.
And like candy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like, what is this thing?
So yes, if I was a mother or a father out there trying to get my child into it, like you said, it's so easy now because there's so many junior high programs, there's high school programs, there's college programs. You can go right on down the list and find a way to get your child involved in it. Like what we do out at our farm every year, we do a program with right here in Alexander City Schools, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. It's called the AR program, where they get to read books. They read so many books, they qualify to go on a field trip. Well, one of their field trips is coming to our farm and going fishing. I've had hundreds of kids over the years catch their first fish out there.
Amazing.
Some of them never been before a day in their life. We also do a program with the state of Alabama. It's called a state pond mentoring program, where I myself have a pond. They bring in kids from Alexander City, from Fayette County schools, from Davil at different times. They allow those children to come fish, and they also plant that seed in the back of mom and dad's head and said, hey, okay, Mr. Hardy that owns this pond has given us the chance to come fish. He's also going to give you an opportunity to return if you will contact him and let him know what day you want to come and time and all that and coordinate that.
Yeah.
So not only did we plant the seed in that child's head that day of loving to go fishing, they got the opportunity to return and continue that process.
Pretty special stuff there, and getting kids involved and getting their parents involved, and that's how the sport's grown. And you look at high school and college fishing, it's really doubled the industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, by the way, in this country, freshwater fishing and hunting. And so let's talk about you a little bit on the fishing part. What's the most special fish catch you've ever had? In a tournament or just by yourself? You caught a lot of fish. We've caught a lot of fish and have special moments, but is there one that stands out?
Yeah, I'd probably say the one that got me a professional check in one of the open tournaments, or the first professional check, like I said, that ever been cashed by a disabled angler at Santee Cooper Lake. And it wasn't the greatest fish in the world, about 1.5 pound fish, but it finished out my limit. That was a tough tournament that was going on. Even some of the best in the world were having trouble catching fish. And that one little fish, going across that stage, I'm thinking, oh, I'm just another day of weighing in 5 fish. And that one fish put me over the line where I get into the top 25 and you get cashed a check. And I was like,
wow.
Holy crap, that one little fish that anybody else would have chunked out of the side of the boat and done with it, that made all the difference in the world.
Made all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
And in this sport, that can make the difference.
Oh, sure. Well, Greg and I have fished in tons of tournaments together, and he and I have talked about that before. In our young age of fishing buddy tournaments together, we've caught those small fish and thrown them out because we said, hey, at the end of the day, it ain't going to matter if we got a fish like that. There's a lot of days we wish we'd had them back.
You learn from that kind of stuff. Okay, your favorite lure to throw. If you only could pick one lure to fish from now on, you just throw everything out of the tackle box and say, you get to pick one. I have to fish it year round. What is it?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to be biased because it's a lure I made over the years ago with net bait. It's called the Hardy Tack Crawl.
Okay.
I invented something that looks like a crawfish, and it's got multiple appendages on it so that I can pull things off of it and make it different things that I want it. I can make it a flipping style bait. I can make it a swimming style bait. I can make it a top water bait.
Make it a trailer.
I've done it, all kinds of ways, and I just say I'm biased just because I know I can do so many things with it. That's just what I enjoy out of it.
Okay, so that thing's versatile, obviously. All right, so take that one out. I'm gonna take that one away.
Okay.
You kind of have a bias to that one.
Yes.
All right, so if you had to pick another one, what would it be?
I would probably say some type of top water lure because there's nothing in this world like watching a fish blow. It's like you threw a 5-gallon bucket of water in the lake. It just blows up, and you're like, holy! It almost scares you so much you forget to set the hook. You're like, whoa!
And a lot of times they'll hook themselves.
Yeah.
So and then sometimes I've kidded and you've kidded too. I mean, a treble hook will hook everything but a fish.
Yes.
A lot of times, especially your hands.
Yes.
I mean, they'll find your hand. I mean, you can barely be moving around and the thing bury up in your hand, and a fish can roll all over it and spin on it and dance on it and do everything else, and you don't get a hook in it.
Well, I mean, I've got an amazing story about that kind of thing. At Smith Lake, practicing for an open tournament, I'm throwing a Zera spook, what a lot of people know of, these big set of hooks on there. Well, I catch 2.5, 3 pound spotted bass. With me sitting down on the front of the boat, I can't get up and run from that fish, so I flop him up and lay him in my lap. He goes to flopping, and that treble hook's just latching to my leg. Well, I got blood just pouring out of my leg from a set of treble hooks, and here I am out in the middle of the lake all by myself.
Fun time, then.
Oh, it makes it fun.
Safety.
Well, you have to realize then and there at that moment, you go, one of those things you go, do I really want to do this?
I want to talk about a couple more things before we end.
Okay.
The safety part, we kid around, but if you're out there on the lake with driving a boat that runs 70 miles an hour,
yes,
and it doesn't even have to be a 70 mile an hour, it could be a boat that only runs 25 miles an hour. How important is to wear your life jacket? How important it is to have that kill switch on? How important it is to be on the lookout for other boats and not be distracted. And we can be distracted easily, obviously, just like texting and driving. This is the same thing. There are double the people on lakes now than when you and I were growing up.
Sure.
All right, so these tournaments, instead of having 50 boats in them, have 150, 200 boats in them.
Right.
You can't be too safe. And you have to look out not only for yourself and doing the right thing, but you have to look out for everybody else, because we were in a tournament a few weeks ago, and my son and his partner, and we were at Eufaula, and if you know, coming out of Cowicky Creek and Lake Point Marina, you got a channel to run, and there's a lot of shallow places, and you can run aground. And so I'm watching my GPS, and I'm watching, and the sun's coming up. It's a little foggy. It's not terribly foggy, but it's a little foggy. But you're having to stay in the markers, and there's people out there, not a cut on them, inexperienced, and they just didn't know what they were doing, and they ran across a shallow place, and maybe they panicked or whatever. Well, I'm coming around the bend, and a guy almost cuts me off on the front, so I kind of kill it, and we kind of motion, and I let him go, and then I come around, and I'm at the mouth of the creek, and one of my first spots we're going to fish is over there to the right. Well, I lay the boat down, we're getting ready, and a boat literally comes within 10 feet of the back of my boat. And Braden and his buddy go, whoa, and I'm like, the guy never checked up. And it's like, you can't be safe enough. And then, 10 feet more, he's running over the top of our boat, and there's no telling what happens. And so you cannot be safe enough out on that lake and do the right thing and be overly precautious enough.
No, and that's one of the things for me, because I was sitting down as an angler, I had to be overcautious about everything I did, because just like that fish story, I could be out in the middle of that water practicing all by myself and something go wrong. I need to know how to handle things. Well, I had a checklist of every single day. I made sure I had a fire extinguisher in the boat in case my motor caught on fire.
That's right.
I had life jackets. I had the throw cushion with a 150-foot rope on it. I had everything, the kill switches like you talked about, because every time that I was moving, I needed to be safe, because if I fell over the side of the boat, if I didn't have a life jacket on, that was it.
That's it.
And I mean, and as our friend we've talked about before, Greg, he shares a story with me not long after, just a few years ago, trying to sell his boat. Him and the guys out there riding in Lay Lake just testing it out, and he went to turn the boat, threw both of them out. That's a professional angler, threw them both out.
You just never know.
No.
You don't know when you're going to hit something. You don't know if somebody's going to hit you. And again, a lot of times fishermen, they go fishing by themselves, and they fish. If they can't get a buddy, they just go drop the boat in. You go fish one afternoon.
That's right.
I've done it hundreds of times, and there's been many times, and I'm just going to admit it, I didn't wear my life jacket. And now, the older I've gotten, if I'm ever out there, especially by myself, my life jacket's on.
Sure.
Because you don't know, you could get up too fast, you could pass out from blood rushing, just anything. And it only takes that one little thing to go wrong, and you could be in a tremendous mess. Hunting, same thing. I want to end with that. Gun safety, we just talked about it, man. You can't be safe enough. Always holding the gun at the right angle, especially if you're with other people, and making sure that that the chamber's unloaded, and treating the gun always, even if it's not loaded, treating it like it is loaded.
Yes. Well, and one of the things we do so people know that we're above board on safety with our off kids is we put 2 guides with every kid. We have one person that totes the gun and the other person that totes the bullets. That gun is not loaded until it's in the shooting house and it's pointed to the field. When it's pulled out of the shooting house, it's unloaded and they tote it. So there's no way for that gun to go off if they got those bullets separated. And
then we just want to make sure everybody that's watching this today knows that can be the the factor in having an unbelievable day or a tragic day.
Sure. And I would say I'd probably end with this as well on the safety side of it. Take my situation, for instance. All you guys that want to climb up in a tree, I'm not against it. I loved it. I think it's a great thing. Just don't trust that stand to hold your butt up there the whole time. Yeah. Don't trust that safety harness to do it. Be overboard on safety. You can never be too safe.
No, you can. And, again, at the end of the day, all that stuff's man-made.
Yes.
And I don't know of any human that's perfect. So there's mistakes that can be made. There can be faulty materials. It could be just any kind of freak thing. And that kind of stuff happens all the time. You just have to be, like you said, if you feel like you need 2 safety straps, do it, because one might fail. Yep. You might have a backup or whatever. So whether you're on the water fishing or just having a fun time, go through the checklist, make sure you have everything in case something were to happen. Same thing in the woods. You don't know if wear your orange. Make sure you know where everybody is that's going to be with you. If you're by yourself, tell somebody that you're going hunting.
Yes.
Don't just say I'm going to go sneak off one afternoon and I'm going to be by myself, because just like your situation, thank goodness you had somebody there, because if you didn't, we don't know. I mean, you could have been there for hours.
Oh, yeah. They have tons of programs on your phone now, like the Life 360.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
If you tell your wife, hey, I'm going hunting, and that Life 360 says, well, okay, he's right there in that hall. I ain't got to go look for him. We know where he's at.
That's right. And that's good for kids, too.
Yes.
I know where my son is most of the time. And he knows. I know when he cuts it off.
There.
so he knows not to cut it off. So, Jim, man, it's been fun.
Yes, sir.
It's great catching up with you, and a lot of great information, great story. You've done so much to touch not just kids but adults' lives, and you've taken your situation and you've made it 10 times, tenfold. And I think the good Lord challenges us every single day to take the gifts He gives us and go spread those gifts. Right. And we all have different talents, and it's just been awesome to see a friend not let a condition determine who he is. And you've taken that condition and you've really you've set the world on fire. I mean, really, for lack of better terms. And you're going to continue to impact kids and families, and you're doing a great thing. And man, we commend you for it.
Well, I'll follow that with, it's not me. There's a lot of people behind me that's helping volunteer with off. There was a lot of people that helped me in the professional fishing world. There's actually, so the people out there know it, there's a company behind me now that called Christian Faith Publishing. He's actually fixing to publish my story in a book. So
Wow.
I thought that was pretty cool that they would call me and even want to tell my story.
Absolutely. And before I leave, I failed to mention you won a few state championships in football too as a coach. So.
Well, again, I didn't win them. I had a bunch of good kids that won some
Yeah, but I
championships.
mean, yeah, you were the leader. So
Well,
everybody can't be, everybody can't be a leader, and
Well,
everybody's not cut out to be a leader. So.
Well, as I told, what you've already brought up at the beginning of this episode here is attitude. I used to teach my kids 3 things: attitude, effort, and details. I said you can control those every day, and when you cross that line, your coach ain't going with you. You need to know the details of the game when you get out there on Friday night. If you don't, it's going to show up.
That's true.
Every single time.
That's true.
So yes, I was blessed to have a bunch of good kids and a bunch of good families, and yeah, we won 4 state championships out of the 6 years of being a head coach. Played in the state championship the other 2 years. So I thought that was
pretty doggone good.
pretty decent.
That's right.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick, but everybody's
No.
no, but seriously, that's awesome. And Jim, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, and let's hit the woods and let's hit the lake sometime soon.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks, buddy.
See ya.